Imagine up in a world where magic is a privilege of blood, and you are nothing but a beggar with no future. This is Derek, a transmigrant who survived the streets, learned spells from an unlikely mentor, and became a ruthless mercenary. But your life changes by accepting an impossible mission. The Dialist Tutor, the rebellious daughter of a mighty duke, known as terrorize servants and be unable to use magic. In a duel where noble etiquette is thrown in the trash and survival techniques are worth more than titles, Derek needs to teach this young noble woman that the true power, it doesn't come from the blood, but of fear and determination. Prepare for a journey of overcoming, where a slap on the face is just the first one. Lesson from a master who has nothing to lose. Welcome to the ManhwaCapped channel. And that's the story we'll see today. You know, right, actually. Leave the like at the beginning of the video and shove as much as you can. Find out if you are already subscribed to the channel, if bell is activated. And don't forget to log on to our Discord server to participate in the 50 Rias picks draw. The link is right below in the description. Said that, no more windings. To start with this story that is surreal, the girl was known to all as a young noble woman, refined and worthy. However, the first time in which he found your teacher, ordered him to clean the dirt off his feet. The teacher did not obey, and without hesitation, slapped her in the face. Before coming here, Derek had already received Diala's father's permission to deal with her the way he thought best. Why Derek possessed such authority? Like one thing, your identity as a beggar. Actually, Derek was a transmigrant in a trance, but only after arriving in this world, realized that he had become nothing more than a beggar. Even the mentor who taught him magic was just an old beggar who loved to brag. The old man was not a master, disguised, just an ordinary wizard of Asura. The beggar needed admiration, and Derek needed to learn magic. Your interests were perfectly allied. Yeah. In just 1 year, Derek reached a level the old man could not reach, achieve in a lifetime. Instead of praising it, the old man began to destroy Derek's trust, saying your talent had limits. 2-star magic is its limit. What sustains you is the bloodline. No matter how hard you try, is inserted in this world. Noble magicians have overwhelming privileges, and most young nobles could reach the level of mage, 3 stars, even before reaching the majority. That night seemed endless. Derek couldn't tell if the old man was warning or just venting your frustration, but the next morning, Derek found the old man's body. I was beaten, covered with horrible wounds from head to toe. At the beginning, Derek thought the old man had caught after getting involved in a fight, but then he found out the truth. The old man was beaten to death by guards after being caught stealing an item, 2-star warehouse quality. Nobody knew why the beggar, destined to never achieve the magic of 2 stars, I would risk my life for something like this. Years after the death of the old beggar, Derek met his second Kisha magic mentor. She was the matriarch of the decent Flame Heart family, a 3-star magician who made her living as a mercenary. At the beginning, she only offered guidance to a young man who had joined a group of mercenaries, still early, and could already cast star spells. Tatia taught Derek many things. Not just magic, but also how to behave in the world. What really changed your attitude? It was an unexpected incident. The day Derek revealed his talent, Katia did not hesitate, immediately took him to an isolated clearing. You already know how nobles are equal regarding your privileges, and magic is the greatest of them. Power is seen as a blessing, but only among the nobles. Among commoners, even a 3-star magician, it is usually the result of a lifetime dedicated to magic, and what you just used was a spell of 2-star distortion, called auditory hallucination. From that moment on, Katia started to travel with Derek, teaching various spells from time to time. She also talked about social circles to which it belonged. When I was still noble, after a year living like this, Katia left the property of Count L, leaving behind a mysterious 2-star item. She completely disappeared from Derek's life. After that, Derek learned alone 2 more 2-star spells. That year, he was only 16 and didn't intend to stop there. It was also on that same day that Derek received a commission that would change his destiny. He was hired as private tutor by an earl of a border nation, someone who not even the dukes of the capital dared to contradict. For Derek was an impossible offer to refuse. To become a nobleman's magic tutor was like this for anyone. Extraordinary luck. It turned out that the temporary commission of the Duke himself, and that play a man famous for spending money like water, and by ordering the subjugation of monsters on the of its territory. However, Derek immediately realized something was wrong. A family like the ones on the plain had no reason to hire mercenaries to deal with monsters. Remembering the warnings of the old beggar and Kaisha, Derek initially declined the proposal. But the Plains family offered too much money. Only the advance payment already equal to a whole gold coin. The supposed targets were just ordinary goblins, like Derek suspected. The so-called subjugation mission was just a lie. The real goal was to find a magic tutor for the Duke's daughter, Job Plain. The three people who appeared before were far from common. The old man was Delam, chief butler of Plain property. The woman was Katerina, the main ruler of the mansion. The last one was Aisling, the eldest daughter of the Plain family, although Derek accepted the lucrative commission. Never let down the noble guard, how they had no reason to hire an ex-mercenary as a teacher. And what is so? The reg abruptly entered the office of the Duke of the Plain. Father Brother Valentine, you need to see what's going on, reg. What do you think you're doing? I didn't teach you how to keep your composure at all times. It's not me who's out of composure. It's hers. She has already started to assault the servants. Lower the voice. King, and your father is talking to me now. Just last month, more than 10 servants resigned because they couldn't take it anymore. She breaks furniture when she wants dad. Until when will you continue to tolerate this canon? Lose when I hear this. The Valentine, the older brother, couldn't hold back anymore. Enough. Leave now. I still have issues to discuss with my father. Father is indisputable that Yahello is uncontrollable. We still have Aisling. We do not have. I think it's time to forget about Yahello. Listen carefully. This does not fit that. You decide. I'd already asked the butler to investigate the monastery. The facilities are excellent, and many sons of nobles are set there. Instead of letting her remain a burden on the family, it would be better to hand her over to the will of the gods. If not controlled, someone like her will end up becoming a stain on your bloodline. So Ray forgets to speak. The Duke of the Plain, his head and slammed hard against the table. I've said this before. It's not you who decides. And once Zilline had already taken the Dirk into the Duke's property. Have you heard anything about my sister? From her. I only saw her name in the Play family genealogy. Thought Dirk. Zilline added that it explained everything. Probably she didn't draw much attention to people's eyes from outside. At this time, the two found Valvran along with Riley, leaving the Duke's office. Long ago. Aisling, how have you been? Thanks for the concern, brother. They've been fine. Let's go. As you can see, Rick is a little hurt. We talked another time. By their expression, it was clear that an argument had just taken place at the residence. When Derek noticed a maid at the end of the hall, covering the face and crying, ever had an idea of what had happened. Right after the two entered the Plain Duke's office, Aisling exchanged some formal words with her father before presenting the pay. This is the magic tutor I brought from Albustion. Is willing to teach her. By the Duke's expression, but it was evident that he did not take the matter very seriously. Father, you must be busy. I will withdraw soon. When she turned to leave, the Duke stopped Derek from leaving. You look very young. It's going to be 16 years old, right? Remembering the edict he had been taught. Derek responded calmly. The Duke watched closely. What level of magic are you able to use? I just have some proficiency in magic. Mental tide. Don't lie. Humildate excessive. It's hardly a single virtue. Then Derek realized that in front of the Duke of the Plain, a mago proficient in the 5 elementary schools of magic wouldn't be enough. If he showed any disrespect, I ask for your forgiveness. I understand why you acted that way, but in my opinion, nor your age, nor your credentials, the proper Lathia as a magic tutor. When seeing this, Dirk didn't try to hide anymore that your tribe was a mercenary. Since you were personally chosen by Alin, I will not interfere. You are allowed to enter the village where works reside. I'll send a maid to guide you. You can withdraw now. Can I ask some questions? Go ahead. Only after receiving the Grand Duke's approval. Derek finally spoke. As you know, I'm a mercenary. When I accept a commission, I take it to the end. Lady Alin tasked me with helping her to learn magic and guide it in noble society. The Grand Duke watched coldly. These are the questions you want to ask. Things that should be obvious. Exactly, because of this, Dirk replied. I hope your grace may grant me a certain degree of authority, so that I can fulfill the commission properly. The moment those words were spoken, a subtle change appeared in the face of the Duke of the Plain. At the same time, elsewhere, Buffer threw another plate at a nearby maid. Sorry, lay works. That you used to apologize. Get out of my way. If I see you again, I'll break it in your filthy face. In our local, the master of the Mercenaries Guild expressed your confusion, because to allow a commoner to be magic tutor of a noble woman, the Duke replied calmly. Searched all the magic instructors, continent renowned. Everyone refused. I had no choice. Roderick is a mercenary. He knows well the conduct and etiquette of the nobility. His mentor was once a noble fall. He probably learned those qualities from her. I understand, said the guildmaster, nodding. Though he's a mercenary, Roderick behaves with and seems to have a good heart. Maybe you can really orient from her correctly. A cold voice replied. Lady Alin, your judgment may still be failing. Derek grew up in slums. became a mercenary before he even knew better. Someone like that doesn't survive with grace or kindness. And Quantuizo about guidance from Dylan. Derek arrived at the village where Dila lived, after hitting several times without response. Opened the bedroom door. Good morning, my name is Derek. I apologize for bothering her. Did not reply to the greeting, just made a gesture to get him closer. The moment Derek took a step forward, a triumphant smile appeared on her lips. Then, she dumped a whole bucket of kitchen scraps directly on Derek's face. Oops, my hand. Said of her laughing. I thought a mouse had entered. Then to you, the mercenary the butler mentioned. Look good, you really look like a mouse. I prepared this especially for you. Remember where you came from. The smell of sewer suits you perfectly. What a pity, a gift prepared so carefully. Ended up all on the floor. When listening to the insults, Derek just kept looking fixed towards. The firm look made her feel unexpected discomfort. Without hesitation, she kicked him hard, making you fall to the ground. Don't you dare look at me like that. She even took her shoe off her toe doing this. Know your place, you filthy mouse. Do you think someone like you can teach me? These commoners never taught you the least amount of decency. In Quantuizo, the Duke of the Plain was immersed in deep thoughts. After the previous conversation, mercenary Derek had made too strong an impression on him. The fact that I'm even sitting here proves that the problem of Dila is not easy to solve. So let me ask during the teaching process, how much authority are you willing to grant me? Back to the village, Derek raised his hand and slapped his head hard and sound on Dila's face. No doubt her never imagined anyone would use to treat her this way. She looked at Derek in disbelief. The burning pain in her cheek was telling the truth. She really had been hit. Only then Derek spoke. Says, 3 years before, Derek had asked Katia Mestra a question. What would you do if you met an ungrateful student? Well, replied Katia after thinking a little, I would try to understand and tolerate it. That's not too idealistic. Teaching means guiding the student towards something better. If understanding and learning fail, another method must be used. And what would this method be? Plant fear in their minds. Back to the present. Dila still couldn't accept who had been hit by a simple mercenary. Derek's voice remained calm and controlled. I will say that once. Learn to treat others with care and respect. Biases, but once you've got up. Dila slapped Derek in the face. Who do you think is a mercenary? Daring to lecture me before I finish the sentence. Derek hit again. I will not repeat, said coldly. Treat others with care and respect. Seeing Derek's boldness from her, let out a laugh. Butler remarked. What are you doing, this bastard? Dared to hit me on her call. Dylan quickly entered the room. Her lady. The lady is hurt. What does it mean? How dare you raise your hands against her? If the Duke finds out, before Dylan finished, Take removed a document from his coat. By order of the Duke of the Plain, all subjects related to Dala education are on my authority. Any methods I use have been authorized by your grace. When seeing the Duke's signature, Dylan was momentarily speechless. Only then, from her, realized that that tutor was much more problematic than I imagined. Shortly after, the news that Derek had hit her came to Valfrain. Brother, calm down. The door was opened with force when the Valfrain entered, staring at Derek. So you are the mercenary. Did you really dare hit Dila? Shouted Valfria. Brother, calm down. At this moment Derek finally spoke. I have permission from the Duke. He is a guest brought by Ellen. Said coolly. Rotates it like this, and puts it in a difficult position. Most important, Dad already knew his methods. Come with me. Hallie Colt then turned to Rag. Stay out of it, and take care of your responsibilities. I heard about it too. Murmur right. From her. Really need to catch up to learn something. Don't worry, brother, said another voice coldly. She won't hurt any of you. That one there has no way for a long time. Don't expect to actually fix it. Not long after, the reliefman led Derek to the room that she occupied in the main residence. This was her room, when she still lived there, has been empty ever since, until he looked around. In addition to the typical dolls in a girl's room, the walls were full of paintings of her. Love to draw, said Valfria in a low voice. Whenever I finished a drawing, was ashamed and bothered me to show. She was incredibly adorable, but most paintings were never completed. She stopped after finishing the parts I liked the most. I lost my composure earlier, said Valerian after a break. Please accept my apologies. Harry, who shook his head. All right, but why did you bring me here? Wanted you to see the real Dila. Valfria answered with weight in his voice. She was never a child who stepped on others, but at some point, became with bloodlines. In the end, was expelled from the main residence and confined to the village. I don't know what changed her, but I can't let her be sent to a monastery. If she can, master at least one extraordinary spell, I can convince our father. Valfrian bowed his head. Please save her. Before that sigh, unexpected of a proud nobleman bowing, Derek just made a carefree gesture. His attention turned to a book of spells, expenses on the table, full of handwritten notes. These texts are theoretical from the attribute law. Are not yes, replied Valerian. That's what the nobles study while Derek examined the notes. A hypothesis began to form in your mind. I will do what I can, he said, delivering the book back to Valfrea. Later that night, while she still slept soundly in her room, a bucket of ice water was suddenly poured over your head. Derek was next to the bed. Can still sleep now. What are you doing? Went crazy, screamed Derek. Raises, come with me now, said Derek coldly. You lost your mind. Where is it taking me in the middle of the night? No matter how much Derek fought or screamed, no one dared to stop Derek. He out of the village. After confirming that there was no one around, Dirk threw her to the ground. She smiled with serrated teeth. Do you think this will change anything? Don't be ridiculous. Who do you think you are? As there is no one around, Derek said calmly. How about I tell you an interesting truth? From the beginning, I never intended to teach magic seriously. When seeing Derek's expression, that she feels a chill rising up her spine. You don't think it's ridiculous? Because someone at the bottom of the well would revere boring tutor title. It's just a pretty title than you're talking about. I never planned to be a magic tutor. Just needed a cover. Perfectly legitimate to deal with someone like you. You know how convincing this sounds. When those who find themselves untouchables finally feel afraid. Do you think you can do something like this and get away with it? Of course I can, Derek replied by shouldering. You will be sent to a monastery soon. Who would believe in you? So even if something happened, I am just a commoner, exchanging the fate of another commoner to invent a nobleman's problem. That's not a big loss. What if I decided to leave now? Nothing would happen. After all, the Play family would be doing a favor. From here she realized that if Derek really took over, she could die right there. Running back to the village would not guarantee safety. He could just drag her out again. Then she made a decision. Needed to throw him off in the forest. Knew very well that if I arrived at the Duke's property, who would die would be Derek. At this time, an intense light shone behind her. When turning, saw Derek casting 2-star magic. Fireball. It meant that 16-year-old mercenary was at least a 2-star wizard. When the fireball exploded in front of her, Afur fell to the ground, taken by terror. For the first time in life, felt how close to death he could be. Sorry, Derek said coldly. My hand. Rising desperately from her run into the dark forest. But by keeping watching Derek's movements, stumbled and fell hard. When he managed to get up again, Derek's heart attacks were approaching. And quickly. You move well, commented Derek calmly. Not bad at all for someone who spends all day trapped in a village, enjoying the moment he talked about her. Again. Knew that running non-stop wasn't the solution. Sooner or later it would be celebrated. When he looked back, the attention of Derek seemed fully focused on feeling the magic around. When he lifted her head, was already gone in the forest. The woods in front of him were exactly the same, those that appeared in her paintings. He realized that she should compete there since childhood, and that what she was painting was actually the manifestation of magic that he instinctively felt. When you again feel the flow of Nana around, Derek was even more sure that your assumption was correct. In that instant of her, jumped out of the bushes holding a rock. Unfortunately, with a simple finger movement, Derek destroyed his last hope. Your determination is admirable, he said, knowing it couldn't get away. You decided to attack first. It takes courage. Physically and mentally exhausted from her, no longer had the strength to run. Looks like the escape is over, said Derek approaching. If you mean anything. He advanced step by step. Do you think I would apologize? Dila responded with, just killed me. I will not bow down like those commoners. So why? Asked Derek. Why are you so with bloodline? When listening to these words, Dila's body shook violently. If that's all what I have then, what's left of me, beyond this noble blood, I have something else. Magic. Everyone talks about magic. But you think I didn't try? They tried. But it just doesn't work. No matter how hard I try. Never works. And what should I do? Be it magic or painting. I'm worse than everyone else. Without my bloodline, what I have, what I am. I understand, Dirk said in a low voice, so rest in peace with this. Raised the sword. This time from her did not run, looked directly into Derek's eyes. But for your shock, the blade was blocked by a wall of ice. That she couldn't believe what she saw. Who had summoned the wall of ice was none other than herself. The girl who could never use magic. From her stood still. I like to understand that I had awakened your ma. That way you did well, my lady, said Derek. Lowering the sword. Forgive my previous rudeness. Technically, it still can't be called magic. It was just Nana activation. But still, you did very well. At that moment, all the emotions that he had repressed from her, therefore, the temple finally overflowed through my evaluation. Derek continued. You belong to the wild attribute. Wild attribute. What does it mean? Most nobles learn structured attributes. He explained. But actually, all schools share the same essence. The difference is in how the magic is perceived and learned. You are from the wild attribute, lady works. So try to learn magic through structured theories. Just stopped her from stealing. And how do you know that? I'm also from the wild attribute. I saw your paintings. You felt the mana in nature itself and expressed it through art. Most wizards with wild attribute potential feel a man in nature still in childhood. Enough for today. You can go to an initial awakening. That was good, but you still have a long way to go. From tomorrow, I will teach how to actively extract mana. At this time she has fallen. Anyway, Bagdu. That painting called Twilight was complete. Which one? Derek stopped for a moment and smiled lightly. Yes, it was very well completed. You are the first person to realize that it was already complete. The next morning, already she started trying to extract mana actively, but it didn't matter how many times I tried. There was no progress. On the way to meet Derek, Dela ended up scaring a maid for pure pleasure. The water in the maid's hands fell on the Dela dress. At the same moment, the maid almost froze with fear. Sorry, Lady Dela. I made a mistake. Please forgive me this time with Dela's behavior. In the past, such a mistake would normally end in punishment, but for the maid's shock, Dela didn't explode. Be more careful, just calmly said. The maid could hardly believe her simply left after saying those few words. You are fine. She didn't hit you. Hit, whispered another maid. I'm fine. Looks like something really happened when she left last night. In quanto disso, Derek, who had spent the whole night busy, still slept soundly. Suddenly, someone slammed the door, followed by her voice. The miss is there. Please observe the appropriate label, said Dylan softly. So tell me how to control the mana. I managed to activate it. I tried just now, but I still can't control it. Dylan was paralyzed. I couldn't believe that, after just one day of her, had already awakened his mana. You didn't say you would teach me today, so tell me soon. Come back this afternoon, replied Derek from behind the door. Before dating the while the Dylan was still seized by the joy of Dela. Her expression had already become dark. Who do you think you are to give me orders? Open the door, tell me now. Derek did not respond, just turned around calmly and went back to sleep. You heard, Lady Dunna didn't throw any dishes today. I even poured water on her dress this morning, and she didn't lay a finger on me. I also heard that Lady Dela already woke up Mana. This is true. This tutor has only been here for one day, is it not? When listening to this, Reg stood still. What were you talking about? Shortly after, the Valfrin reported the matter to the Duke, and the Reg Dela woke up here Mana. His father answered by Valfran. I confirmed several times with the butler and the servants. The Duke of Play interrupted writing for the first time. This is really good news. It's just the awakening of mana, said Reggie, forehead fringe. Dad, it's not too early to draw conclusions. Urgur rebuked Valfria. Your sister woke up mana. Even if you don't praise her, how can you say something like that? You've forgotten everything she's done over the years. Remade Urgur. Let's really cancel the monastery plan. Just because of this. This is too hasty. While the brothers discussed Yahello, the Duke just wrote again, and continued to review documents and polish. Soon afternoon arrived when Derek entered Diala's room. She was sitting alone in bed. Is bored. I'm not bored, said Diala coldly. I'm angry, even if you're bored. It doesn't change anything. They said I'm angry. Trikub. The angry, or butter, Derek calmly replying. It doesn't change the order of things. Everything has its sequence. She finally exploded. I already said I'm not bored. I'm angry. But when he turned his head, found himself facing directly, Derek's lovely eyes instinctively deviated from the look. You're pretending I'm bored. If you start to recklessly strive, just because you woke up mana, soon it will pass out from peacefully Derek. I am speaking from my own experience. Learning requires balance. Since you've rested enough, let's start mana activation. Sim Murmur works. Which tutor? Commented she prefers a less effective teaching method. Asked Derek. At that moment, Dela remembered the way she had woken up. His mana was certainly unconventional, but on second thought, sat down quickly, thinking much better. Let's not focus on mana activation. When you can activate the mana freely, learn magic from a star will come naturally, continued Derek, or attribute. Wild never forget a system full of hearts. Ironically, this makes it most suitable for self-taught study. Compared to structured attributes, the wild attribute values freedom much more. To be honest, my lady, you are exceptionally suited to the wild attribute. What does it mean? It's exactly what it looks like, replied Derek. His free nature strongly matches him. And with the blood of the playhouse, its potential is unrivaled. When listening to this, Dela looked like someone else. You are saying I have talent? Yes, said Derek. You formed a defensive response at the moment of awakening. That alone proves you have talent. Oh, so that means I'm a genius, right? Talent and genius are different things. are not the same. It's not how you want it to be. While the two practiced mana activation, none of them noticed the ranked crossing, and watching through the window, by his expression, was clearly dissatisfied with Deal mana awakening. In the days following her, started looking for Dirk every day. I can now activate mana, but I still can't control the direction. Dirk looks. There is cold forming in my hand, but it looks weird. Dirk listens to me. Now I can feel the mana, but the feeling is weird. Dirk, I've been looking for you all day. What are you doing here? You really think my dad lent you these books of magic just to study? Yes, Dirk answered calmly. Oh, Duke gave me permission to consult freely the magic books from here. So what's your point? I've already managed to activate mana the way you taught. Come and see. That night, Valfrion was in his room with an unusually serious expression. I heard you were looking for me. You came. Feel it, said Valfrion. How my sister has been lately. She has made significant progress, Dirk replied, but it will still take some time, until you can cast magic from a star. I understand my mother must go back of the social season next week. I need to notify you in advance, continued Valfrion. She is not someone easy to deceive, although the people on the property look cooperative. For now, most nobles despise commoners in a position of authority. You understand that? Does not understand. I will remember this, replied Dirk. So why did you keep me here? Valfrion said he would be the next head of the family of the clan, and that the duty of a head of the family was to care for and accommodate all members of the house. Something extremely difficult. Added that the human heart, it is extremely complex, and that it would be wonderful if everyone shared the same values and angles, but reality is never like that. Valfrion then said that she was your dearest little sister, but that she didn't play with him anymore. When listening to this, Derek was speechless. Valfrion kept asking if Derek remembered how I could smile and greet him when they were kids, like it was yesterday, and if there could be anyone more angelic than Dale. Valfrion asked if Dirk had some way to win back Dale's affection. Dirk responded, asking why he was asking that. Since Dale always liked to follow Valfrion, and as Valfrion himself said, Dale was looking for Dirk by the property lately. Valfrion then asked Derek, saw something I had learned from one of the maids. He suggested making a doll, and asked if she looked exactly like the adorable one and if she could feel her brother's love. Through this, Derek, with direct sincerity, asked Lord Valfrion if he was trying to cast a curse on Dale. With that, Valfrion reacted angry, saying Derek was completely useless. 1 week later, the Grand Duchess returned. She said she heard enough about Derek, that the property had hired a magic instructor, extremely capable, and introduced herself as Myrla Diable Duplain. Bramaz added that, if Derek didn't care, I would like to send some gifts to the territory to which he belonged. Derek replied that it didn't belong to no house. When listening to this, Myrla was paralyzed. Derek had no land or noble family, was just a commoner. She found it hard to believe that a magic instructor, competent, who everyone talked about, was just a civilian of foreign origin. When realizing this, Myrla immediately entered the Grand Duke's office. You really allowed a commoner serve as a magic instructor? Details. What was I thinking? Oh, Grand Duke Franzua tested, and replied that his hearing, it was perfectly normal, and that there was no need to raise your voice. Myrla coldly replied that this was not the problem. The problem was hers, their precious youngest daughter. Grand Duke explained that, though he didn't like to hand over commoners, all instructors, nobles of proper lineage had already refused. Even so, Myrla insisted that he allowed a mercenary through the streets. Teaching her was unacceptable, especially when finding a suitable magic instructor wasn't easy task. Grand Duke added that Derek had been highly recommended by her own. Helen Myrla retorted that still, there should be a minimum standard. Why not invite your own younger brother? She kept saying he had only refused before, for being busy, but that now the circumstances were different. From her had already awakened her mana, and yet he was appointing a border defense officer as tutor. Particular, he really believed that, administer and govern a state. It was something so funny. Myrla pressed even harder, asking about the social season of nobility, and if he thought he dealt with high society, it was easier. That world was in its own right, and the instructors molded everything they could after. Yet, he had chosen an unknown commoner. No home and no position, preparing hers to become a social outcast the moment it entered noble society. At this time, Valfrion also entered the office. Mother, please calm down. If you didn't come here just to argue with his father, came away. See Valfrion. This subject cannot be ignored so easily. This commoner really has the qualifications to be a Yahello magic tutor. That's the real question, not the moment Myrla saw Raid. A slight relief appeared in your eyes. A simple commoner to become a nobleman's magic tutor. It's not common, whether this commoner really has the necessary aptitude. So I don't see a fundamental problem with that, Dad, said Reggie. I am willing to test Derek's skills. Personally, if it can defeat him in a terrible duel, this will prove that from a magician's point of view, he is actually very strong. As soon as those words were spoken, Reggie was silent for a moment, and then added, "Allow me to test her instead." Only then the Velfran realized that the king looked like a deep hostility against their own mother. Cedric is really a capable teacher. Then, like the moon, that she should have already understood concrete progress. I am willing to determine his qualifications, facing her in a terrible duel. After a brief hesitation, the Grand Duke ended up agreeing to Rake's proposal. As soon as they left the office, Valfran tired Rake in the hallway. "What are you really thinking? Why insist on a balanced duel with Diela, brother? Do you really believe that she has changed, has forgotten everything she has done in the past? No matter what happens, she is still our only sister, our own blood, someone we must protect and support. That blood you speak of will destroy our family sooner or later," replied Reddy coldly. "What she's already done doesn't prove it. If she goes to high society, this will be the real disaster. That's exactly what you believe. Who crossed the limit first was hers. She should have been confined to the village from the beginning." Fought between younger brother and younger sister, Valfrain didn't know what to do. Not long after her, upon learning of the decision, went straight to Derek. "You are in a hurry early. What happened this time?" That she did not answer, just threw a document on the table in front of him. "If I lose this duel, you will be dismissed. They've heard that the young master, Reg, is a wizard of a star," said Derek calmly. "This duel would not be easy. All you can say to this: if I lose, you will be fired. I'm a mercenary," Derek answered naturally. "Provided the commission is fulfilled and the gold is in my pocket, that's enough, and so far I've been paid more than enough." When listening to this, Diela was paralyzed. Are you serious? A week passed in an instant, and the day of the mutual duel between Diela and Reg finally arrived, with Erlin Script, who was outside the property. Virtually all family members on the plane were present. You arrived when seeing the Grand Duke. Dirk held a formal bow. By his posture, it was clear that I wasn't nervous at all. It made the Grand Duke suspicious. Dirk's confidence in that situation made it unwise. I resigned hastily. What no one knew, though, was that for Reggie that was no ordinary duel. He intended to use that opportunity to destroy Works Complotaments and Quantumizo. Diela participating in a magical duel for the first time kept a determined look. Time has returned. That afternoon she talked to Derek. "So you won't interfere. In addition, you can feel to Derek yourself calmly. Your mana's growth has already stabilized. Maybe you still can't launch magic of a star, but in time you will be able to. After all, you carry the blood from the plain house. Why are you saying all this all of a sudden? I already said the wild attribute has always been a suitable path for self-taught learning." When he heard it from her, he almost cried. "Because, why are you telling me this now, Derek? I know I'm not a good student, but I still want to keep learning magic from you. I don't want anyone else to teach me. Let me be clear," said Dirk calmly. "I don't understand the label, nor the formal rules of mandatory duels of the nobility, nor ever participated in it. But I can tell you how to win a fight." At that moment, Afur remembered words she had heard before. How can someone like that come from the playhouse? With brothers so capable, it seems that the family is in decay. As those voices echoed in his mind, Diela's gaze became firm. "I want to win. It will win." At that moment, Afur was not there like Greg's little sister. More like Derek's moon. And like a magician walking her own way. We'll begin. The duel between her and Reg has officially begun." Seeing her climb the duel platform, Reg felt a strange restlessness. She really was there with the determination to win. When your eyes met, Edel's voice echoed alongside them. Both participants prepare for the duel. This comparison will follow standard mandatory dueling protocol with fully active protection barrier. The first to trigger the protection will be considered defeated. Last notice: prepare if the duel begins. The device of protection automatically activates just before the user suffers a critical hit, nullifying the opponent's magic. Derek can't help thinking that always had curiosity about how nobles fought. Use objects so absurdly expensive as training equipment. Really showed that they had money to spare. The barrier would last 10 minutes. Reggie clearly intended to finish the fight before that. Had no intention of accepting a draw, and that's why he took the duel so seriously. The moment the duel began, Reggie gathered mana in the palm of his hand and began to intuit a spell. As he prepared for her, remained completely still, staring at him. One of the decisive factors in a prolonged duel, it was the conjuration speed. In long-range combat, who finished the enchantment first, generally got the upper hand on Reggie's mind. And keep the day, she only required a single star spell. Sorry, he thought. But you will go back to that village. The instant the song fell, the magic of the first star, Gale blade tore the air towards DL. From the point of view of regulation, there was no way the slow one would tell the air to divert from the attack. He could already imagine the Gale Blade, the protective barrier, and tell him being sent straight back to the village. What he didn't notice, it was the unshakable determination in the girl's eyes. He considered her a threat to the family. At that very moment, Her lowered her posture and shot to the side, demonstrating a rare agility. There were no doubts. The change that she showed surpassed many Reg expectations. Don't think you can run away. Grinding my teeth, Reg forced more mana and changed the width of the Gale Blade. The blade bent in the air and advanced again behind her. In the understanding of a girl confined in a village for years, never could match the resistance of an ordinary person. But if he had seen the expression of Yahello at that moment, your assumptions would have instantly broken. Though Rage was proficient in magic and multiple attributes, was still a rookie in real combat, and for some magic to change its appearance, only consumed the mana at an accelerated rate. Just like the king thought he couldn't escape from her. A wall of ice rose from the ground, intercepting the Gale Blade head-on. Under normal circumstances, a basic ice wall formed only with human. I would never make it. The magic of multiple attributes, however, like the king, had forced the Gale Blade angle change. Its power has been reduced. Even so, Reg didn't believe that she could keep blocking your attacks with tricks so simple. Choose your position. Reg began to intuit again. This time pretended. Fire 3 consecutive Gale Blades. Your specialty. She wanted to keep running back and forth. All he needed to do was seal all possible escape routes. And the Reg certainly didn't believe that she could tell again, with those walls of ice to stop your blades. Listen carefully. Reg had already said to Yahello that mercenaries fight in form different to nobles. They don't care about victory. A pain, they only care about winning. Is different from a typical duel between nobles. Even if you win, can still be. But still the goal is achieved. You are willing to learn this? Of course I am. This time I will win. Back to the present of. She started to analyze the situation, exactly as Derek had taught. She immediately channeled mana and formed several pillars of ice, additional, then began to move between them, using the pillars as cover, while running, though Reddy's raw power surpassed by far that of Yahello. She never forgot Derek's lesson. Even when there is a strength difference, victory is still possible. Because that wasn't a duel, it was a fight, and as Derek predicted, Reggie was fundamentally aimed in real combat. By repeatedly forcing her Gale Blade's changing angle, Reggie consumed his mana, doing with what speed and power they fall, far below the pattern of multiple magic attributes. That was the only reason why Yahello managed to narrowly deflect each attack. Derek had already told her that the battle is about molding the combat field and explore all possible advantages. In other words, do whatever it takes to win. Even induce carelessness and a false sense of security in the opponent can become a weapon. Realizing that I couldn't do it anymore, completely avoid the attack, she invoked her magic again, erecting a wall of ice to block the Gale Blade. With the first approaching star, however, having awakened its magic only recently, the effort of a terrible duel so intense was already starting to charge its price. At that moment, Brady's voice sweated again, saying it was over. The moment she heard those words from her, turned his head quickly. The last Gale Blade Reggie had thrown had already skirted the walls of ice behind. When the magic hit the target, a morning platform was completely enveloped by smoke and dust, in all visibility. Derek, but showed no signs of panic. He trusted that from her he would not fall so easily. The same could not be said of greatness. That was rigid in the stands. Works of gathering, what is waiting for? Finish the duel right now and bring it back. At this time, the Grand Duke spoke calmly, for her to return to her place. The duel is not over. What are you talking about? You saw it with your own eyes. Was struck by that magic. Was not, replied the Grand Duke serenely. The aids of General Pallor was not activated. Actually, Grand Duke's attention wasn't just on the platform. He also observed Derek sitting silently among the spectators, from beginning to end. Derek didn't even. As if everything that happened had followed a train. And with the duel still undefined, Reggie entered the cloud of smoke that remained in the air. By the logic of, she should have been hit by the Gale Blade. First star, but General Pallor's aids remained inactive. Or else that Reggie spotted a familiar figure on the platform, through a small opening. Before I could react, the wooden boards on his feet exchanged. The next moment, ace pillars and regular crossed the platform from bottom to top, surprising Reggie with a sudden ambush. This meant your reflexes were fast enough. Only your cover was perforated. King found it hard to believe that Yahello would really hide on the dual platform to launch an attack. Underneath, in accordance with the rules previously announced by Delon, go off the edge of the platform should result in immediate defeat. By Delon's expression, Yahello's actions did not violate the duel rules. Things anyway, such an elusive and primitive fighting style had never appeared in a duel between nobles. As that thought passed through the king's mind, the wooden boards on his feet creaked again. Although it looked a little messed up, Reggie narrowly avoided the form of ice that literally appeared. But that was far from over. Almost instantly, 3 more pillars of ice missed his side. There was no doubt, all attacks that appeared under the platform were aiming straight at Reggie. These blows were impossible to predict, and almost invisible. The only clean hit meant immediate defeat. At that moment no trace remained of Yahello's noble elegance. It was then that the reg finally located where she was, hidden on the platform. Only then he really saw Yahello's eyes. There was no emotion in them. That wasn't the look Yahello should have. And yeah, Reg felt he had seen that expression before. The answer came quickly. Were the same eyes as the mercenary who showed no reaction, not even when the Valfrieto by the collar. Only then Reg realized that the tactics of Yahello carried the unmistakable influence of their magic tutor. Now that the truth was clear, there was no reason for the king to continue to maintain the position of noble heir. Without hesitation, he ripped the cover off his back. If from her, abandoned the chivalrous ideals of noble duels, and decided to fight just for the victory, he would answer the same way. Because of Yahello, Greg's decision left aside the aristocratic posture that always continues. What is it crawling on the platform? It's disgusting down there. Dear, what are you doing? Stop the duel immediately. Yahello didn't break any rules. Let the duel continue having passed the youthons. The Grand Duke of the Plain showed no surprise. With chin resting on hand, he silently watched the duel below. And Quanto Izzo, hidden on the platform, that she didn't randomly attack. She carefully observed the above changes, but precisely the flow of mana. The moment the king began a song of, she could track your position through mana currents. On the move, leaving the king with only 2 options: interrupt the chant to dodge, or change the force from offensive to defensive magic. In this tense universe, Reggie quickly realized the true intention of works. She was deliberately depleting her reserves. But it was exactly at this moment that Reggie found a way to break his neck. At the same time she realized that the flow of mana through the arena was gone. Suddenly, she immediately realized there was a plan. But regardless of Reg intentions, everything you needed to do was to keep interrupting their chants. Even Delon couldn't hide the surprise when noticing the sudden change in Reg behavior. He had already gone up on the flagpole, who carried the play family coat of arms. From this position, it would be almost impossible for Yahello to detect mana fluctuations of his song. At the same time, Reggie could no longer complete the enchantment correctly. The only solution remaining was to destroy the dual platform itself. Without hesitation, Reggie his mana and fired a burst of mana straight against the base of the mast. The impact made the suspend car post. The family arm hit the floor with a bang. As I felt enjoying the moment, Reggie jumped on the collapsing mast. Your plan was simple. While the mast destroyed the platform, he would go down with her ass. Myrla was paralyzed when she saw that. She never imagined that her son, of which he was so proud, would resort to static. But Reg no longer cared about anyone's opinion. The moment it landed on the platform, started looking for her through the dust that swirled in the air, soon spotted a fast-moving silhouette. Without thinking twice, Reggie another mana princess. The next moment of her felt the violation of mana around her. Instinctively tried to pull mana to form another pillar of ice, but soon realized that his reserves were almost exhausted. She could no longer conjure magic and needed to retrieve mana while dodging. Unfortunately, the dense cloud of dust made the mana cloud of Reg deviate slightly from the width. What really took the Reg by surprise was that she was approaching. Instead of backing down, she advanced. The only clean blow would have ended the fight. Instead of her completely abandoned the magic and threw a heavy shot right into his chest. At that moment, Reggie saw again in his eyes the murderous intention. It was a look he had seen countless times in youth. The look of someone willing to do anything to achieve a goal. The blow hit it squarely, removing Ray air. But what he didn't expect was the real attack. Next, from it came a handful of earth and shot him straight in the face. Even perceiving her intention instantly, Ray still got caught in that brief opening. Taking her chance, climbed back to the platform using the fallen mast. Her action made something clear to the rule. Her mana was completely exhausted, evident from the way she stood. Reg managed to read his determination effortlessly. I want to win, no matter the cost. I will prove my worth through victory. Yahello actions ignited the fighting spirit of Reg. Not as an opponent, but like brother. When Reg climbed the platform again, Yahello was already there, watching in silence. His body was stained with blood, but his gaze was fierce beyond measure. At that moment, Yahello remembered what Derek had taught. That night, imagine a city being painted with wide brush strokes. Mana is aim. The enchantments are the brush. Gather the scattered colors with the brush and complete the painting. This is magic. Over the night sky, the young man with white hair, created as a backdrop. had said those words with eyes full of starlight. It was that night that the girl first fell. The learning impulse, the world itself, the starry sky, the manna flowing through the air and the boy of white hair by your side. She wanted to capture it all. When closing your eyes, the scene of that night vividly resurfaced before her, who was already at the edge of his manna. Within itself, she imagined Berlin, a vast screen with your fingertips. Before you noticed the manna in the air, responded to your call, converting into your hands, and bringing a freezing feeling. The first creation of Yahello was about to be born. The moment he opened his eyes, she called her own transcended magic. For the first time, a spear of ice and radiating a cold capable of freezing the bones, formed by your side. First star ice spear magic. The vision made her visibly shudder. Why dear, see its first star magic of. She conjured up first star magic. A spear of ice. You finally got. The moment the ice spear appeared. No one around the platform used it anymore, or mourning. Reg in turn, silently swore to offer the sister the most serious answer possible. Without hesitation, he formed several mana molecules at the same time. Even with the day she wielding first star magic, Reg still believed that the results would not change. The instant that the ice spear took full form, she fell directly against Regi. Almost at the same time, Regi shot all the red arrows around him. The two first star spells collided in the center of the platform, causing an explosion violent as dust covered the arena once more. At that moment her heart was filled with concern for his youngest daughter. As the dust slowly dissipated, General Palor's aid manifested itself in the arena, signaling the end of the duel. Both her and the Reg found their own answers in that confrontation. When the smoke has spread, the duel that would decide Derek's fate finally revealed its result. 1 year ago, Dio informed Duke of the Plain that a letter had arrived that morning, and that it was about the next social gathering. As they walked down the plain aisle, see her in her room, looking sad and lonely. Not present, it is discovered that it was the Blackbird barrier that was activated. Then she realizes she had already lost. She screams in sadness and frustration, while your mother rebukes his father for allowing such a vulgar duel. While the woman keeps complaining, Dolan ignores her and watches her daughter, because it recognizes something in her. When I was young, Dolan was a fierce who loyal to his king, even in times of war. At that time, the king told him he had someone's eyes. Continues, and now looking at his daughter, notices the same angle of ambition in her eyes. The maids run to see if she's okay, ask if she's hurt, but she remains silent and continues to cry. One of them tries to take her to treat her wounds, but from it drives away her hand with a slap. She gets off the platform and goes through Regi, which succeeds. Congratulates you on your good work. The maids believe that from her it will go to her chambers, but she keeps walking until she gets to where Derek is sitting. Stopping in front of him, expresses all the pain and frustration at having lost. With tears in the eyes, apologizes to Derek for his defeat. Derek gets up and says losing is not a problem, but that she must use this frustration to climb higher and become stronger. His words hit and she cries even more. As the maids look back, not knowing how to help. At this time, your mother appears, hugs her, and shows compassion for what she went through, of her trying to talk, but the mother says she doesn't have to say anything. Des hugs and asks you to go treat your wounds first. After she leaves, the woman goes to Derek and starts yelling at him, calling it the common wretch. Says he may have made her a magician from a star, but that doesn't mean he's impressive. Without hesitation, she slaps him in the face, saying all Derek did was teach cheap tricks. She grabs her shirt, claiming that he made the Grand Duke's daughter do something embarrassing, and then stabs again. Continues to shout and insult, telling Derek to have a minimum of dignity. At this moment of play it appears that it turns quickly for him, waiting for support, but Dula surprises with a slap on the face, saying that she is the one being vulgar, that she is shocked that she was slapped by her own husband because of a simple commoner. Duplain agrees that Derek is just a commoner, but remember that he is their daughter's teacher. He asks what kind of father or mother treat your own child's teacher like that. Then, Duplain turns to Derek and asks him to forgive his wife, saying that each person has their own way of loving the son. Derek takes a deep breath and replies that everything is fine. Then Duplain asks him to follow him, because they need to talk, in particular in the dining room. Blackbird gets confused, trying to figure out what just happened. When they are finally in the Duplain office, he praises Derek for his good work with Yahello, says he intends to give you an adequate reward, and asks if he wants to reach the highest level allowed to a commoner, the magic of 3 stars. Derek doubles in on straight to the point, and realizes that he understands him better than he does. Like, Duane is a 5-star wizard, and also the Grand Duke of the nation. Derek You should take advantage of any opportunity that comes from him. Without hesitation, says he wants this chance of planning again. The way he teaches his daughter. But explains that her current level, still not enough, to survive in high society. Dirk replies that there are many people around able to orient from it. And that now that she has found her way, will probably grow quickly. Deplains, saying that what the daughter needs, it's not just from an instructor, but a true teacher. Dull, says Derek, who can feel such great ambition in him, that shouldn't even be allowed as a dream. Even so, says he's willing to pretend he sees nothing. For being him, Rick is surprised by realizing that man does not intend to prevent Low of reaching even greater heights. How to reach 4 stars. He realizes that's exactly what makes even more dangerous plain dude. Duplain also mentions that he knows that Derek cannot stay on the property for a long time, as it has great ambitions. Asks if he is already prepared to leave, and Derek replies, yes. Lula then tells Derek that he doesn't intend to stop him, but who asks may he continue teaching her some more time. At this time, asks again if he wants reach 3-star level, the highest allowed to a commoner. After the meeting, must receive access to the property's library, where you find a 3-star magic book. He is impressed, because there are people who spend their whole lives trying to get just a 2-star magic book, while he now has access to several out of 3 stars. With this, Derek realizes you have even more reasons to stay on the property longer. Although I think Feline will be furious when she finds out. Later, Dirk meets her, who starts bragging about being a magician from a star. Dirk explains that she only managed to use star magic once, but that still counts. Avid screams, asking if he's not happy for the progress of the learner herself, since he's busy reading your book. That does not give you a satisfactory answer, and she decides to retreat. He then praises, saying she's recovered a lot in the last few days, remembering that she cried a lot after losing to Ray, and she also tries to act tough, saying I wasn't crying. It was just dust in your eyes. In addition, she thought Derek would be fired, and wish your father had warned you before, that he wouldn't go anywhere. At this time, Derek suggests starting class of the day, as it is evolving rapidly, and will need to learn other star spells. And she immediately cheers up, because it interprets this as proof that he recognizes his talent of genius. Derek comments that her growth is unusual, since he managed to use the magic of a star, shortly after manifesting her magic. Brags even more, saying that he had already warned that he is the type of person purchasing that promises. She starts to suggest various spells that could learn. As you said, features that can be resolved without enchantment. As she keeps thinking about magic, hence the interrupts, saying she will practice the manifestation of magic. Again, she is shocked, because he believes who should learn new spells from a star. Derek explains that there are several reasons for this, but that in the end, the most important thing are the fundamentals. He is about to explain better when she accepts, saying you trust what he says. She admits she got excited for no reason, because he thought they would learn new spells. Suddenly, realize Derek is staring at her, and ask why. Jokes, asking if there's something on your face, but he replies that he does not, just saying you're surprised she's really listening, with a certain attitude. From her, replies that he always respected his words from the beginning. More direct. Remember when she threw dirty water on him twice, and it was nothing nice. She has no reaction to hearing this and wonders, because he still remembers. To avoid strange weather, she starts to act playfully, and suggests continuing the class of the day. The lesson continues until dusk, and hers is already completely sorry for so much learning. Derek pauses and comments what he heard, that she will be very busy from now on, and she confirms, saying next week, we'll begin to take etiquette classes and general education. Derek believes this is good because, now that she has learned the magic of a star, will finally have access to a true noble education, and she complains that she's not happy at all for having to study boring things, as a noble and basic label, foreign languages, geography, history, botany, theno, and even zooing. She wonders how Liam managed to withstand all of this. Derek is also impressed, and explains that's why the ice line is called the Dylan Flower, in addition to being in Stan's high society center. And she says all she wants is to study magic, and Derek replies that she can do this, remembering that it was Dylan who hired her, so they still have a lot of freedom to decide what to study, even so that she thinks they won't have that much time. How much he imagines. Dirk asks whether there is anyone who could evict you from the property, and she replies that yes, and explains that although his father may have recognized him, your mother is not the type who simply let things go as they are. Derek is also confused by this, and asks to her because her mother would want to kick him out. She explains that her mother probably fears that if she keeps learning from Derek, will end up moving away from noble dignity and become something like a mercenary. She said that after the duel, realized that it had nothing to do with what the nobles call it dignity. Derek replies that no, it's nothing too much what Lee's works of confuse. He then explains that silencing his mother, it's not as hard as it looks, because just remove the reason she uses as an excuse. Later, Diela's mother is seen walking around the estate, thinking that Derek could be a bad influence on your daughter. Several absurd scenarios begin to pass through her head, like her with a golden tooth running around, hunting wild boars. Just imagining this, her head starts to hurt, and she wonders what exactly Derek has to offer. She knows her husband may have recognized Derek, but still, she remains the lady of the property. While thinking about what to do, Myrla appears before Diela, and the woman already imagines that her daughter will run to your arms as you always did, but to your surprise, notices something strange. Diela is wearing an elegant dress and greets her with a noble posture. Diela explains that she cannot leave the annex while treating his wounds, and apologizes for not having the chance to talk properly before her. Still says that there are many things you would like to talk about, but who has a pain of class that morning. The woman is completely surprised by how Diela is behaving, and then the girl says she needs to go because your son's schedule is quite full. Before leaving, the mother asks if she has started etiquette classes yet, since they would start the week next. She replies that this is exactly what is happening. It makes the woman intrigued, wondering how she can know and act that way without having yet taken classes. After a brief conversation, her says goodbye, and as she walks away, still speaks kindly with one of the servants, telling her not to try too hard. Everyone, including your mother, watch with surprise and confusion, not understanding what happened to the young woman. Elsewhere, Baseline chats with her friends in the noble district of Ebelstein. They comment that at the last social meeting, she looked pregnant, but that now looks different. But Aline is surprised to hear this and apologizes, saying he didn't want to tease anyone. She explains that most of what she was looking for has already been replaced, and who now feels much better. Ihr Ravehead friend, Aline Nafoit Belmide, are relieved to hear this, because she had been curious when she learned that Baseline left the noble district to save someone. Baseline thanks for the concern and reveals that who needs help was your little sister, her who needs a magic teacher. So she had to go out in person to look for it. When Elaine hears this, is shocked. She cannot believe that her own Iseline left to look for a magic teacher, which means that this teacher must be someone extraordinary. The other friend, Denise Veltus Linier, confirms the story, and Zeline tells that he saw her recently and that she has changed so much, who barely recognized her. She proudly says her sister manifested magic of a star, and that his posture was so elegant and composed that even made her feel that she needed to try harder. Denise is surprised to hear the little island talk about her sister, since the family always kept hidden Blackbird. Denise comments that this must have been thanks to the excellent magic teacher, and Iceline confirms. She said the teacher may not have status, but is extremely capable, so it was worth going to the mercenary corps beyond to meet you in person. Olent gets even more surprised by discovering that the teacher is a mercenary. However, what most catches your attention is the fact that this teacher managed to transform Blackbird of a rebellious girl into a calm young woman, who even became a magician from a star. That, ask Aline. If you can tell the name of this magic teacher. Aline hesitates at the beginning, but then he says he'll end up becoming famous for being a Diela teacher, and who just wants to know his name before it happens. Finally, Aline reveals that her sister's teacher is named Dirk. Back to her property. Talks to his mother and comments that Dirk has been teaching you etiquette. She says it was hard to learn etiquette on her own, but instead of recognizing the impact of Dirk, Myrla replies that it is good to see that she is studying on her own, that she does not give up, and indirectly corrects the mother, saying it was all thanks to Dirk. Even so, the woman keeps walking around recognizing Dirk, and asks what exactly was so hard to learn on your own, and she replies that it was difficult at first, but it got easier thanks to Dirk. Inside, the woman is about to explode, because from the beginning of the conversation, only hear Derek's name repeatedly, which further increases his willingness to expel him. Even so, she needs find a way to turn the situation in your favor. Servants begin to praise her, saying she is much kinder and more polite. Even the gardener comments that she's been in a great mood, and that has changed a lot in a few weeks. As if that wasn't enough, Billon also claims that she has changed completely from one, and that sometimes even confuses it with the ace line. He believes that from her, finally, is about to become a real lady. When listening to this, Blackbird almost loses her mind, as you cannot find any restriction to use against Dirk. Later, Dirk shows up training his magic, but encounters difficulties when Reg arrives. He apologizes for interrupting training, but Dirk says it's okay. Then, asks what brought him there, and the Reg explains that he wanted to talk about Diela before continuing, but he noticed the book, a 3-star magic book, that is in Dirk's hands. Dirk explains that it was Doolin who lent him the book, what leaves Reg completely shocked. Dirk comments it's a tough level for him, but believes that it is no problem to study in advance. When seeing this, Reg finally understands what his father meant when he said Dirk is a true master. Without knowing much what to say, he just praised him and changed the subject. Dirk then asked again about what he wanted to say about Dila. Reg's face is already red and he says it's a little complicated, but wants to know if Dirk understands what teen girls like. He asks if Dila would be happy if he made her a doll. Immediately, Dirk remembers the scary doll that Valerian did and without hesitation says making a doll is out of the question. Wrigley agrees, saying I didn't think it would be a good idea either. Frustrated, he gets up holding his head and suggests going back inside since Derek has already finished his training. As they walk back, Reddy tells Derek that he's grateful to him as the weather in the house has been much better lately. He comments that Valerian has focused on administering the territory and that although the father does not show much, looks quite painful. Rick is surprised to hear this because he finds it difficult to understand the father's reactions. Rick then says he's trying to accept something I didn't want before, admit that people can change. He wonders if it took him a while to realize this, or if he were just avoiding the truth. Now though is willing to change too, since Dila change. With sincerity, Reg thanks Derek for his help. Then comments that he realized that the magic of Dila looked different. Derek is surprised he noticed that. Rick explains that it looked as if she had drawn a picture to use magic. Upon hearing this description, Derek realizes Reg is a genius, like everyone carrying family blood from the plane. Derek then reveals that she uses the manipulation technique of wild nature school mana. Something Reg ever heard of. Explains that each person uses mana differently, believes that when she reaches a certain level, will be able to learn on your own without needing him anymore. He says that at this point, maybe it even becomes an obstacle if you try to interfere. Reggie thinks for a moment and replies that you understand what he means, but believes that the moment of her shine will still come. 2 months after her appears having her hair fixed by one of the maids and plans to decorate it with beautiful flowers. She takes one of the flowers and comments that the smell is very pleasant. And she says he now feels comfortable using the magic of a star and who also got closer to the creators. She claims she lost many things all this time, but now everything has changed thanks to Derek. The maid comments that she looks especially happy that day and asks if she's excited because of your magic class. She is surprised to see that your happiness is stamped all over your face and asks the maid to give her some flowers that are left over so she can hand over Derek. But that same day, your happiness is destroyed and I will throw it out of your hand. When Derek says he's leaving because there is nothing else he can teach you, he explains that this is the beginning of the seasons. There is no eternal winter or eternal spring. Later, Tech meets Dulin to explain the situation. He says that of her belongs to the school of nature, with something you believe Dulin already knows. Derek states that if the involving in her neck will end up limiting its potential, if the plane considers everything Derek says, understanding that it means there is no more reason for him to stay in the mansion. Derek confirms this. The plane breathes deep, gets up and goes to the window, saying that many things have changed. He admits that thanks to Derek, your daughter managed to grow up. Confesses that he was not a good father because he was always busy administering the territory, but now feels certain relief. Duplain asks when Derek intends to leave, and he replies that he heard that the Ace Line will visit the mansion soon, so plan to go back to Elbiston with her. When you leave. When watching the video, Duplain says he will have to return the library key, and Derek replies that he will return it along with the magic books, and who is reading. He said he will hand the key to Delon, but from the plane with a firm voice, states that there is no need, and demands that he return it. At that very moment, how the conversation ended. From the plane says Derek can withdraw. After absorbing the whole situation, Derek bows to say goodbye. When leaving the office, find her who is angry by him is leaving. Derek says there's no way to avoid this, and even knowing that he probably won't change her mind, she asks if he could stay. Derek thinks for a moment and approaches her to explain that he is a mercenary and that you are about to return to your normal life. He said he will also continue to study magic and that when the time further develop your skills, she will go to Everest for her official performance in high society. Beck tries to comfort saying they will see each other again when it happens, and even comments that he will be happy to teach you something new if your level rises. She replies that he is, precisely because he always knows how to say the right things, and so she has nothing more to say. That night of her has a nightmare that goes back to his old life and wakes up screaming in fear. She is sweating, but feels relieved to realize it was just a dream. One of the maids hears the scream and enters the room, asking if everything is up. At this time, of her feels the temptation to make an excuse to make Derek stay. She thinks about hitting her maid like she did in the past, imagining that it would force Derek to remain. While thinking about it, the maid asks again if she's okay, and from her claims, finally made a mature decision. Don't go back to your old habits. She makes sure everything is fine. Because you've thought a lot about it and you know what to do. Something like that wouldn't make a better person. When it comes time for Dirk to leave the property, but he nor prepare the carriage and tell him to say goodbye to his students, as they will leave soon. Dirk turns and sees that of her and her brothers came to say goodbye to him. Valerian asks if he really needs to leave. Derek replies that he needs to go back to where he came from. Ray comments that life in the mansion should no longer be easy, since he had hard work all the time. Valerian tells Derek he can look for him if you ever need help, for he will do his best to help you. Derek then looks at Dela, who is clearly not ready to talk to him. She ends up being forced to speak. When you realize that Derek keeps looking at her insistently, from her asks if he thinks she'll beg you to stay because she is no longer a child. Derek says it was an honor to teach her, but who cannot proudly declare himself as your teacher, then hopes she remembers the magic she learned from him. Ace corrects, saying you'll tell everyone with pride who is your teacher, which means he can no longer live quietly. After all, he is the teacher of the big plane Diela. After that, she turns around and asks him to take care of herself and don't get into anything dangerously sensitive. Eric ensures he'll be fine and asks her not to try too hard either. From her responds that she is already an adult and knows how to take care of herself. These words remind you of Eric from when he said something similar to Kesha, but Ketia hugged him tightly and asked him to take your words seriously. Now being in the same situation as Kesha was, Eric approaches Diela, caresses her head and says she doesn't need to become adult so early. Your words reach deep. And Dela starts to cry. When Derek is leaving, she calls him back to say goodbye properly, waiting for them to meet again. Derek leans before her and says he hopes to see her again in a Bolstein. Later, Derek arrives in the business district of the Bolstein and entering the finds the mercenaries acting as usual. Helaine is busy beating a man, but stop right away when you see Derek. With a smile, he says he finally came home. After settling in, Jaden offers you an expensive wine, of those that the nobles tend to drink, saying it's a welcome gift. Derek thanks. Helaine, on the other hand, asks if he was always so pale, because it seems even worse after living on the plain property. She wants to know what happened at the mansion, but Derek says there was nothing special, just worked there. Helaine uses this to tease him, saying that now he speaks like a nobleman. More Jaden quickly intervenes and offers a drink to calm her down. He complains to me that he got angry for having to work alone while Derek was out. Jaden then comment that Derek probably brought a lot of money thanks to this work. When you ask if he was paid well, Derek replies that he won something even more valuable than money. He shows the magic book he received, leaving the two completely shocked. At the beginning, they think it's a 2-star magic book, but Derek corrects them by saying it's 3 stars. The two go crazy, screaming and asking where he stole that from. They say he's dead if he gets caught. Derek clarifies that it was double and whoever gave him the book. Helaine is shocked to see this and grabs Derek, asking if the property is looking for a bow and arrow instructor. After all the confusion ends, and purring knitter mass as always, Derek asks Jaden if there is any work available. Jaden is surprised because he just arrived and already wants to work. Derek says he is ready to accept any task, even something simple, how to eliminate monsters. He comments that he fears he has lost a little of his form, but Jaden doesn't believe that, because don't you think Derek be the type of person who loses his ability? Jaden admits there's always a lack of magicians in this kind of work, and that if Derek wants to work, there are many missions available. Derek says he would like to start the next day. The next day, Derek and Helaine set out for monster territory to hunt him. The two fight with perfect synchrony, turning your back with back to leave no opening. They continue traveling through various areas, eliminating monsters along the way. At night, Derek tries to reach 3-star level, but still finds it very difficult. Even failing, ends up creating a big explosion that almost destroys your hands. He realizes that he already dominates well the spells of 2 stars, but the barrier to reach the 3 stars is much taller. Since the summer, Derek and Helaine pass the time accepting subjugation missions until the arrival of severe winter, when they finally return to the. He praises their strength, saying it's good to be young to get to go and return to the warm mountains, even in such a cruel climate. It's not true. He believes they are the only crazy ones able to bring the head of a harpy. In a climate like that, Helaine takes a deep breath and says he finally understands what it's like to feel alive. Jaden then suggests they rest the next day, since they worked a lot. And comments that you just arrived, a request that matches Derek's style, who asks what kind of mission is, and Jaden explains it's an expensive order, but relatively easy. Discovers if then that the association came with the corpse of Rigel mercenaries on the West Street, sent by Count Bermudez. Apparently, they are looking for a commoner to help in a duel of magic. Or that basically means they're looking for a Baido. Strokes. Jaden explains to Derek that all he needs to do is to withstand a few more blows, and that's it. The mission will be completed. The next day, Derek heads to the women's duel arena, which is located in the noble district of the city. Eleni asks if the teacher she will fight, and he replies that they already stole a commoner. Eleni is surprised, knowing that you will have to hit a commoner, and the man explains that this is part of the training. He guarantees that promised a good compensation to the commoner. Then she can fight with all her might. Even so, she is still uncomfortable with the situation. To reassure, the teacher says that the commoner is able to handle the magic of a star, but remember she's almost reaching 2 stars. And that the difference between a star and 2 is huge, like the difference between heaven and earth. Later between Mr. Who will be your opponent in the duel? Derek presents himself politely, and the moment she hears his name, feel like you've heard this name somewhere before. After presentations, teacher ahead suggests they head to the arena. But Elen still wonders if that boy really is a magician, since he looks so young. When entering the arena, Andy asks Derek if he can know the basic etiquette of a magical duel. And he replies that yes. The lens is sensitive when you hear this and asks him to resist as long as he can. She says she will try to finish the fight as soon as possible, but at the same time he cares about Derek, who could end up seriously hurt if she overdoes it. Derek so asks exactly how much stamina she expects from him, and the lens gets irritated by the question, finding the absurd. Derek explains that he needs to know how far he should go to be able to help you in the best way possible. When listening to this, Ellen jumps you, saying he has a weird way of talking, and tell him to give up everything he has. Derek listens to this, immediately concentrates, telling Elaine that you will do exactly like her ordered, and this story sticks around. If you like, leave your like, hype the video as much as you can, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and consider becoming a member if you want to support our work. It's very cheap, helps us a lot. While waiting for the next video, comment asking for part 2 and watch the video that is on your screen, which is also very good. Be sure to log on to our Discord server to talk to EOs, see the name of the work, and much more. Said that, I'm staying this way, and of course we see you in the next video.